Hi, my name is Lynn Heitz. I'm president of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Tracy Soforenko, president of the National Federation of the Blind of Virginia.
And you are listening to
White Canes Connect.
Hey there, PA Federationists. Welcome to another episode of White Canes Connect, presented by the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. My name is David Goldstein. I am the first vice president of the NFB of PA, and joining me today, as always, co-host and White Canes Connect creator, Lisa Bryant. Lisa, what do we have on tap today?
Well, since it's state convention time again, this is our pre-state convention show. We have Lynn, our wonderful Madam President, on, along with Tracy Soforenko, who is the national rep and also president of the Virginia affiliate and chairman of the Jernigan Scholarship Committee.
It was really nice to talk to them, and a couple of things he mentioned, unfortunately, when we weren't recording, that you can ask him about when you see him in Erie is you can ask him about his skiing that he does when he's in state college every year. But it's interesting to hear that as you'll listen, the Virginia State Convention is the week before ours. So he doesn't have a big turnaround time to get from his convention to our convention. I'm really looking forward to going to the convention this year. The Ambassador Banquet and Conference Center looks spectacular. And the food looks good. We're coming off of last year where it wasn't great.
It wasn't one of our better conventions.
The convention was great. It was the food and the lack of employees there to help and to take care of us and serve us and whatnot that really brought everybody down a little bit. And so we're looking to right the ship this year with some great food options and a lot of great things to come in Erie.
And Tracy has a very interesting story. He's very candid about his journey toward the NFB and, as he said more than once, learning to use alternative means of doing things. So let's listen to our conversation with Lynn Heitz and Tracy Soforenko.
Tracy and Lynn, thanks so much for being with us today.
It's great to be here.
It's a pleasure to be with you all.
Well, Lynn, welcome back. Tracy, a pleasure to meet you. And we are talking all things PA Convention 2024, which is November 7th through 10th in Erie, PA. And Lynn, we're going to have you talk a little bit more about why it is where it is. We've been to places, most of our conventions have been in places like Harrisburg, State College. We did venture out to Pittsburgh, but Erie is new. So before we let Tracy talk about presenting to the attendees, why did you and the team select Erie as this year's location?
So the last time we had a state convention in the NFB of Pennsylvania in Erie was 1992. Mm-hmm. And we know that Pennsylvania is a really large in geographic wise setting. And we hadn't been to Erie for like 30 some years. And there are blind people all across our Commonwealth. And I wanted to take an opportunity to go to Erie and to reach some of those individuals that maybe we have been missing over the past many years that we haven't been there.
Typically, how many people do attend each year state convention?
Typically, we have about 100 people register, and we generally have an exhibit hall with about 20 to 25 exhibitors. It still remains to be seen as to whether the location will impact the attendance. It is a great distance. Erie is probably the farthest place north and west of Pennsylvania, sits right on Lake Erie and borders the state of New York. It does get very cold in Erie, and they do get a lot of snow. And sometimes they get snow in November. I'm hopeful that those individuals who decided not to, take the plunge and travel the distance will be made up by those individuals who live in and around Erie, Pennsylvania, that don't know what the National Federation of the Blind is.
Yeah.
And we have an opportunity to introduce them to the largest blindness organization in the nation.
It's an outreach opportunity, essentially.
Absolutely.
So, Tracy, again, so nice to meet you. And tell us a little bit, from what I heard and did a little bit of, fact checking and research. You do several things. You wear several hats within the Federation. So first, tell us a little bit about you. When did you even first come to NFB?
I first attended an NFB event probably in 1995 or 1996. Just actually getting together with some people I met. And at that initial meeting, I was not comfortable and I was not ready at that time. And I wasn't sure what to do. So I stepped away for a time. And then probably in 2003, with a focus on how do I take care of my toddler children, I decided it was time for me to learn alternative techniques and try to learn from other parents to really be successful at this blindness thing. Because before that, I was not comfortable using alternative techniques. And the Federation community and my Federation family in Virginia really made the difference for my life.
So your vision loss came later in life, sounds like.
Correct. So I have retinitis pigmentosa. These things happen over time. And so I was in my 30s trying to figure out how to keep my job, raise a family, be involved in the community, and not drive everybody crazy.
So that's very interesting that you reluctantly came to the Federation and reluctantly, I guess, had to identify with having vision loss. So tell us about the journey from that reluctance to now here you are, a national rep, you're president of the Virginia affiliate. I mean, there's a gap you've got to fill in for us there, Tracy.
So I'm happy to share some details with people tonight or today, and then have others and many of you get the deeper story by attending the convention.
Ah, good one.
So I'll give a little bit of detail. So one of the things I believe the Federation does, one of many things the Federation does really well, is believe in blind people before they believe in themselves, and give blind people an opportunity to grow and learn through getting involved in the Federation and using that as an opportunity to experiment with alternative techniques and having people be confident in themselves. And so I initially joined a chapter reluctantly, as we described, and then I took on some additional responsibilities in the chapter, doing a fundraiser, taking on small activities. And throughout that time, I started using alternative techniques. And I realized, I could use them at home or in my workplace. I could try using techniques that were different than my visual based techniques, but they worked okay. They actually worked really well. And as a result, I had the opportunity to take on greater responsibilities in a chapter, then serving as a chapter president, then serving on the Virginia Affiliate Board of Directors, and taking on leadership roles running youth programming in our state, then taking on additional responsibilities helping first-time convention attendees in Virginia. Then I took on eventually the president of the Virginia affiliate, became the chair of the Kenneth Jernigan First-Time National Convention Scholarship Program. So it's sort of a transition from doing it just in Virginia and doing it broader. And then I was honored to be elected to the national board and serving as a national representative, being able to meet with people and represent President Riccobono, our national president, at state conventions around the country.
You had mentioned that when you started to lose your sight, you needed to find alternative methods to get things done, as we all have over the course of our lives. Are you still doing the same type of work you were doing back then today?
I am doing similar kinds of work than I did then. So at that time, I was in IT contracting, and in the sense that I was a technology contractor running technology projects, and I through this period of time, I moved from being a consultant to being in a role within both first a company and then a U.S. government agency. And I manage lots of people who used to be me before. And so now in this role, I have a team of 60 or 70 people who work on the contracts I'm responsible for. But it is all tied to skills I learned. I learned both as a sighted person, then I figured out how to figure out how to do them as a blind person, and then come up with alternative techniques to make those continue to be successful as I continue to lose more and more vision.
You mentioned being chair of the Jernigan. And you mentioned also doing that on the level that your more local level. I would imagine that the numbers are very vast in terms of, how many applications you get to attend a state convention as opposed to national. What is first of all, how long have you been chair of the committee?
Great question. I've been on that committee since 2018 and have been the chair since 2019. We have been increasing the number of people who apply for the Kenneth Jernigan First Time National Convention Scholarship Program. When we made it actually easier through an online web form for people to apply, this year we had 200 people apply for financial support, which was really exciting. And we were overjoyed to be able to provide support for 111 individuals and families who applied for the scholarship. So it is a competitive program, and but we're really grateful. We've been able to provide scholarships for about 2/3 of the applicants over the past few years. Now, that said, as the number of applications increase each year, it gets harder because we try to provide financial support for individuals, and if you as things go up price wise and budgets are being managed, you have to find that right balance by providing support for as many as possible, but also providing meaningful support.
Switching gears, you said before we started recording that your convention was coming up, and it actually is, it sounds like the week before the Pennsylvania convention. How many conventions other than Virginia do you get to a year, not counting national?
I serve as a national representative at one convention in the spring, one convention in the fall. I specifically requested that when I became a board member, because between national convention, my state convention, and 2 other state conventions in a year, you have to manage some aspect of time off from work as well. I take time at Washington seminar, and so it's really important that we recognize that people are investing their time to come to our state convention, which is why I'm really excited for the programming at the NFB of Pennsylvania convention, because I think it's going to be fun and valuable for everyone who is participating. And I'm going to be there from Wednesday night all the way through Sunday night.
And I think that is a great segue back to Lynn for a moment. Let's get people excited. Tell us some of the highlights and things people can expect this year.
Let's see, without letting the cat too far out of the bag.
Yep, just a teaser.
Just a teaser. I want to say that the space that we will be using for our state convention this year is probably the most beautiful space that we've ever had a state convention in. And so for people who are not going to be there, they're really going to miss out. But I totally understand. We've added this year a dinner on Thursday evening, which is going to be a pasta bar. And we've added a dinner on Friday evening, which is, I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
So you've got to come to find out. We are also going to be playing some bingo Friday night, and we're going to have our live auction. And we're doing something else a little different. We're actually going to be inviting the community to come to our dinner and bingo on Friday evening. And we're going to do a little bit of educating about the abilities of blind individuals and how the National Federation of the Blind helps to advocate for those individuals to get the training, provides the support for those individuals while they're going through the training, and then celebrates their victories when they finish the training and become employed. So there's your teaser.
So you said you're reaching out to the community. So can you tell us like are there schools in that area that you've reached out to?
So actually, the staff at the Ambassador Banquet and Conference Center has agreed to advertise our dinner Friday night and bingo. Evidently, bingo is a really big thing in Erie, especially handbag bingo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Designer handbag bingo.
Right. So we're looking into getting some famous named handbags to give out as prizes. And the very last bingo, which is going to be a coverall bingo, has a prize of $500.
Wow. So that should get some people off the fence. At least we hope so anyway.
So we will be creating a flyer and sending it over to the Ambassador Banquet and Conference Center team, and they will post it on all their social media. We're going to get it in their local newspapers, possibly get a small spot on maybe a local radio station, and go from there.
So Tracy, does that all sound like, wow, I'm so glad I'm the rep this year?
So I am glad I'm the rep this year for a number of reasons. One, because the thrill of attending a state convention is actually meeting the people from across Pennsylvania. I spent some time in Philadelphia, and I spend probably New Year's Eve every year in State College. And I am just excited to be able to meet our members. I remember starting probably at age 7 or 8, I helped my parents run a bingo within our faith community, and I probably broke so many laws at the time, selling things that no 10-year-old kid should ever be selling. And so I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to attend things like bingo, but more importantly, what is really valuable in these sessions is the person-to-person connections we make, the number of people who new friends and opportunities to learn from each other. And I'm excited to learn from our NFB of Pennsylvania members, and also to meet some new people who are trying to figure things out and to determine if being involved with an advocacy organization, a membership organization, makes sense for them, because I was trying to figure that out for me, and I remember what that's like, and I'm happy to explain why it makes sense for me and determine how we can use our resources to help people take more advantage of all aspects of life.
Lynn, Tracy mentioned, people who may be new to the blindness community. do you know how many first time people we have? And is there going to be a set time for those first timers to gather and maybe meet Tracy, or just to have a informational session just for the first time goers?
So we had 7 first timers at our convention in Orlando. And, Lisa, I think that's a wonderful idea. And maybe we could arrange to do that in our hospitality room.
Ah.
I will add that to the agenda.
Happy to help. And hopefully, Tracy, you're okay with that, because we just kind of volunteered you.
I am thrilled to do that. At a number of other state conventions, I've arranged to have times where I meet people for lunch or join people for breakfast. In the end, besides Lynn and a few other people I've met through my travels in the NFB, I won't necessarily know a lot of people. So please find me. I'd like to meet you.
I know it's early, but have you thought about a sort of key takeaway or a key call to action that you want to incorporate in your banquet address?
Actually, I have thought about that. One of the key aspects, and this is sort of tied to some of what we've talked about before, is how do we create a welcoming community for people to get involved in the NFB? How do we meet people where they are and help them to recognize that we value them and hope that they can achieve even greater independence by having the support and community of the NFB of Pennsylvania? That was something that I'll admit was a little rough for me initially. And I'm glad people stuck with me and I stuck with it. But I'm hoping we can create that opportunity and open space for people to come with their challenges and things that they want to achieve and be a resource to them.
Talking about that you don't know many people or won't know many people in Erie. How do you go about when you're in a room of blind folks to meeting new people? I know sometimes it's easy because you're literally running into one another. Your canes are tangling up, whatever it might be. But how, if you were going to go and say, hey, I'd like to go meet some people, do you just walk around listening to people talking? How do you do that?
There are a couple aspects for working a room that I use. First of all, in ways, it's useful to find some of the unusual suspects as opposed to rounding up the usual suspects from the movie Casablanca. I actually like meeting some of the people who aren't in the midst of the big conversation that's going on, but actually finding some of the people who, like me, might not know everybody or are trying to find that space. I offer to help other people out and understand what's going on. I specifically will ask Lynn and chapter presidents, who should I meet? And have them introduce me to some of the members within their organization, including new members or people they're just meeting, because to some degree, people coached and mentored me to help me on my journey. I don't know who those individuals are, so I might ask for help from friends, others who were there. Let me know who to meet. And also, I ask. So one of the things that Lynn will arrange is she'll provide an opportunity for me to speak at various points throughout the convention. I'll say to people, hey, at the end of today's session, I'm going to be sitting here at the head table for an extra 10 or 15 minutes. Come talk to me. Let's figure out how to get together and do stuff throughout the convention. By creating that open space for where it's not like I'm not any different from everybody else in the room, that's a useful way to have people seek me out and create that opportunity for me to get to know people.
It is a good way. I was just at a podcasting conference last week, and there were a few folks that I knew, and I knew that I wouldn't see, and I was the only blind person there. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to spot them if I'm in the exhibit hall or whatever. So I knew if I went to their session, or at least to the end of the session, I knew when they walked off the stage, I knew where they'd be. And that was an easy way just to say hello and say a couple of words to them and reconnect with these folks. So that is a great idea. Once you're done speaking, obviously you're going to be available, and that's a good way. Everybody will know where you are.
I would imagine too, Tracy, that I know if this were my first state convention, I would want to pick your brain going back to the Jernigan. And people probably will come and, pull you aside and, because we do have some new members in actually both of our Philadelphia area chapters. I'm not sure about the other ones, but we have quite a few new members, which is very, very exciting. And a few of them are coming to the convention. But I would imagine some of them would pull you aside and want to know a little more about the Jernigan, and maybe just briefly touch on what does make for a really strong application.
So the Kenneth Jernigan Convention Scholarship Program is focused on providing first-timers a chance to attend their first national convention. If someone shares in their application things like, what do I want to get out of the convention? What have I done in the NFB? And how does attending the convention make a difference for my journey towards doing more in my life? We are less focused on that you're going to be some great leader in the NFB. Certainly it's helpful, but what we really want is someone who has looked at prior agendas and thought about, how does attending the convention help me achieve my goals? How does making this network useful? I mean, so for example, we talked about the fact that our convention in 2025 is going to be in New Orleans. And if what you say to us is, I'm excited to go have drinks on Bourbon Street, a great thing to do, but not necessarily the kind of thing that is the priority.
Right.
Convention is going to be on the coming years in great locations. But someone who thinks through, how do I take this convention experience to leverage our NFB network, and think through not just how, listening to some of the big sessions like our general session speakers, but more accurately, how do I take some of the smaller sessions to build my network and my community of interest based on careers or things that you want to do? Think those things through. That will make a real difference.
Yeah.
And lastly, we do factor in the fact that your chapter president will talk with our president in Pennsylvania, Lynn, to discuss what's going on. And Lynn's going to write a recommendation letter for you. And Lynn's going to write a better recommendation letter for someone if she knows what they're doing to contribute locally. Lynn, am I right on that?
You are absolutely correct.
That also helps lead into my next question, Lynn. Why is it important? And, I'm thinking of people who are coming for the first time, but even for some of those who have done more than one or two conventions, why is this level of involvement important? Why do you strongly urge people to, if they can't do the national level, at least come yearly to these state conventions? What would you say?
Blindness is a very low incidence disability. And if you think back in your lifetime, before you joined the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania, how many blind people do you remember seeing walking around the streets of Philadelphia or New York? I'm willing to bet it was maybe one and probably none.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to know that you are not going through this alone. There is a support system. And I want to sort of reach back a little bit in our conversation to something Tracy said, which I think is really, really important. And that is meeting people where they are. Because people may come to a chapter meeting and they know they're experiencing some kind of vision loss, but they're not at that point where they're willing to put that white cane in their hand and walk down the street. They're not at that point where they're saying, they can say, oh, yes, I want to learn Braille. You know, you've got to kind of take that person and talk to them and keep the conversation going. And, you know, pretty soon they get they kind of, it's like the light bulb goes on. We have a former member of Pennsylvania who now lives in Iowa. And I remember she was a teenager when she came to Philadelphia for a student event. And she lived in upstate Pennsylvania. And she wouldn't use a cane. She definitely had vision loss, but she wouldn't use a cane. And she had Braille. She learned Braille in school. She was really lucky, but she didn't want to use it. And by the time the weekend was over, she was using a cane and didn't feel terribly uncomfortable. There was still a little bit because, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. But being able to talk with her and explain to her why, and I mean, you know, she's a Harvard grad. She spent she spent a semester in Germany. I mean, very, very intelligent young lady. She was working for the Iowa Commission for the Blind for a long time. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
That shows what that breaking that barrier of I don't know, just being so self-conscious and so I guess ashamed of, you know, blindness, and crossing that threshold over into being bold and blind.
So we also have to be really careful, and I think Tracy will agree with this. We can be very effervescent about the NFB and what we have gotten from it and what we give back to it. And when we meet these people who are in this I'm not quite there space, we have to make sure not to scare them off. So we kind of have to tamp down our effervescence.
I think it's a good point, though, that that person probably saw, hey, all these other people are using canes. Here, at least I'll be one of them. And that gave them the confidence to then carry on outside of the convention.
And that does actually remind me of a real story. So someone in our chapter is using her cane more so since coming back from the national convention. So there is some magic that happens when you're with your like-minded friends. Tracy, I think it's fantastic to have you because you have been through the journey of coming to accept, as you keep saying, having to use alternative means to do things. You've been there, you've done that. And, you know, and thank you for even sharing how you had to step away from all of this for a while. And then now to see what you're doing now is really, really encouraging. And I hope people will take advantage of your offer to do those one-on-ones if they can just grab you and just kind of kvetch and share, you know, I'm really struggling. Like, what was the tipping point for you? Because I think your story is so authentic, and I'm really glad. I think this is going to be a very, very good match. I'm thinking of some conversations you could have with some particular people I have in mind that could really really help them and really help build confidence and independence. So thank you for being so transparent already.
Glad to do so. I will also agree. There was a time when I thought the alternative techniques used by blind people were weird, different, uncomfortable, not necessarily, they couldn't be effective. And that they would make me appear different.
Mm-hmm.
An observation I would make is that as you get to use those techniques and observe others using those techniques and using them well, people stop noticing. And it was transformative because my friendships got better because people didn't have to be worried about me. It wasn't their job to watch over me, make sure I don't fall down the stairs. It was our job to go places and do things together. And I think what the magic in the NFB can be that we go do stuff together. We don't just talk about what we can go do. We actually go make it happen. And for me, being involved in our advocacy efforts and helping others has really given me some really great purpose that has has turned a challenge into this phenomenal opportunity to be able to meet with all of you.
You mentioned that your state convention is right before ours. How are you? Because we've got a bus that's going to take a lot of folks up to Erie. How are you getting there?
So I am flying to Erie from the Northern Virginia area, and I looked at various options, and it was the easiest way to get there. And while Erie does not have direct flights from DC, there were easy ways to make this work. And I'm also thrilled to be able to participate in the programs on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Lisa had mentioned your convention being the week before. Where is your convention this year?
The NFB of Virginia convention is October 31 to November 3 in Portsmouth, Virginia, which is right across the Elizabeth River from Norfolk, Virginia. And we're very fortunate that Amtrak runs to Norfolk. And so we are actually arranging for lots of us to be on the Amtrak trains, and it provides some flexibility for making that happen.
Well, Lynn, we should let you have the opportunity to make a last pitch. How much time is still left for anyone who is not yet registered, or are there other deadlines and dates that people need to know about?
Currently, the registration is $25 a person, and that will be increasing to $35 on September the 15th.
Okay.
And then it will be increasing to $45 on October 15th, because we really need to get information to the hotel for meals and seating and all that kind of good stuff. After October 15th, you will not be able to purchase meals, which you're going to be very sad about. I'll tell you right now. So, one of the big things on our menu this year for our banquet, and one of the things that Erie is known for, is Lake Erie perch. And although Lake Erie perch was not on the menu at the conference center, I specially requested it, and they are obliging us. And so that is an option to purchase when you go to register. So if you've never had Lake Erie perch, it is a real treat. And it is a bit pricey, but unless you go to Erie, you're not going to get it. This year, the convention is being held at the Ambassador Banquet and Conference Center. And what's really great about this is on either side, either end of the conference center, I should say, one end, there's a Hilton Garden Inn, and the other end is a Marriott hotel. So anybody who was at the national convention in Houston and knows that there was a Hilton on one side and a Marriott on the other, and a convention center that connected the two, that's exactly what this is. However, it is not quite as large, and all of the meetings will be conducted in the conference center, the Ambassador Banquet and Conference Center.
And will any of the convention be virtual?
We will be attempting to do Facebook Live.
But no Zoom that people can log into?
At this point, I cannot commit to that.
Okay.
A lot of that really depends on the kind of internet connection that we can get. Sometimes it's spotty, sometimes it's good. Sometimes it doesn't, it's like non-existent. So we really won't know until we get up there and get our sound equipment, connected up and see how that goes.
And I imagine if that is possible, there's going to be some way, because if you won't know until you get there, you're going to have to rely, I guess, on sending out some sort of email blast.
Just like we do with everything else, I'm sure we'll send it out through the listserv at both the individual ones per chapter and division, as well as the NFBP talk.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, I also want to add that the cost of those two hotels is $109 a night, which is really not bad.
Well, Lynn and Tracy, I think this has been a great conversation. Thank you both. Tracy, I'm so excited to hear your address. And again, we really appreciate you being so open about your journey. There are a lot of us, as you know by now, there are a lot of us who can relate. So it's so nice to talk to someone who doesn't have it all figured out, but had to figure it out along the way. So thank you for that. If people do want to connect prior to the convention, let's say someone says, hey, I just want to really make sure I have a cup of coffee with you. Is there a way that people can reach out to you before November?
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to have people connect with me in advance. Probably the easiest way is you can find the details about every member of every state president within the National Federation of the Blind. If you go to nfb.org, about us, state affiliates, Virginia, you will find my contact information there, and that's probably the easiest place to find it. You'll find my email, you'll find my phone number. I'm glad to connect with people in advance, and my information is readily available there. It's also on the NFB of Virginia webpage.
I'll find both links and I'll put them in the show notes so folks will be able to just either tap and connect or click and connect and get a hold of you.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
I look forward to seeing everybody in Erie, Pennsylvania. It's going to be a treat. You don't want to miss it.
Thank you both, Lynn and Tracy.
This has been a pleasure, and I look forward to meeting people in Erie, and I'm excited to reconnect with some old friends in Pennsylvania.
Thanks again to Lynn and Tracy for coming on and talking about what's going to go on in Erie. And we'll have another episode where we go more in depth in the agenda and the different meal options. Lynn kind of teased it. If you want all the information, you can go over to nfbofpa.org/2024, nfbofpa.org/2024. You can register at that page. You can register for the Senior Possibilities Fair at that page, and you can see all the meal options linked from that page. So go check it out, nfbofpa.org/2024.
Well, I am looking forward to the reports about it. It does really sound fantastic, and I'm really excited for the first timers. I'll be very, very interested in hearing how this went for them. And thank you, first timers, again, who helped us with our feedback, with your feedback, I should say, on the national convention. And perhaps we'll poke you again for this one. But in the meantime, great work, David. I know it's been a lot. Planning something like this even with a team, it's a lot. So thank you for what you're doing.
I'm not at the tip of the spear on this one. I'm trying to do whatever I can with the website and creating the links and things like that. It's Emily and Lynn and Michelle who are taking care of the big stuff. I'm not doing the heavy lifting on this one. So thanks go out to them for planning this. And again, it's going to be a nice time in Erie, a great location, and learn more about it. nfbofpa.org/2024. You can see the hotels, you can call and you can make your room reservation. You can register for the convention there as an attendee. You can register if you want to exhibit. There's a link there for that too. If you just want to be a sponsor, there's a link for that as well. And there is a page on that's linked on that page that'll show you all the meal options. Again, a lot of great stuff on there, especially the taco bar and street corn bar on Friday night, because that sounds awesome. The pasta bar. So again, every night of dinner is covered. There are places close by that you can walk to. And that was one thing, that there's a few options that are within walking distance. And obviously Erie's a city, so there's plenty of places to eat. If you don't want to get the taco bar or the pasta bar and things like that, but it little bit of a different schedule this year. So I'm excited to see how that goes. I'm doing the tech, actually it's called Taking Care of Business, doing that again. We have Chef Deborah Erickson, who's going to come on, and she's actually given something for us to give away. Now that I won't say what it is, primarily because I forget what it is, but I won't say that to spoil it. So a couple other folks lined up. And depending on what kind of timing, I may have a little something to talk about as well in the Taking Care of Business segment. And I'm looking forward to that. And again, nfbofpa.org/2024.
If you have questions, comments, feedback, we welcome them a couple of ways. You can email us at whitecanesconnect@gmail.com.
Or you could give us a call, 267-338-4495. You've got up to 3 minutes. Please leave your name and your town. If you do leave a voicemail, let us know what Lisa just said, questions, comments, show ideas, tips, and tell us if you're going to the convention in Erie. And we've got a couple of months to play it, so that we will be playing some of the responses, assuming we get some, as far as folks going to Erie and what you're looking forward to and what you're excited for. Sounds like Tracy's a great guy, and I can't wait to meet him in person. And for now, again, 267-338-4495. Let's hear from you and tell us if you're going or not.
Thank you for listening, everyone. See you all in Erie.
Thanks for listening. Take care.